Well met, brother.
Hello, and welcome to Warhammer 40k's Grim History from the Beyond. I'm Zeckthar,
And I'm Yuksen.
and we are the chroniclers of all that was, and all that will be in the 41st millennium. We've seen the rise and fall of many empires, and this month we'll be talking about those lovable space vampires, the Blood Angels.
That's right, Zeckthar, and thank you, DigPic, for becoming a member and giving us the topic. Remember, folks, if you want us to talk about something specific, just become a member on our YouTube channel, Tales of Asharaka.
Indeed, Yuksen. But getting into this week, we'll be discussing some of our favorite heroes of the Blood Angels, starting with Yuksen's favorite Blood Angel, Astaroth.
Technically, it's Astarath, but I wish it was Astaroth, because it makes so much more sense. Anyways, also called the Redeemer of the Lost, Astarath is the High Chaplain of the Blood Angels chapter. He is tasked with granting the Emperor's peace to all those of his fellow Astartes who bear the gene seed of the Primarch Sanguinius and have been overcome by the genetic flaw known as the Black Rage. There is no station within the Blood Angels chapter more greatly honored or more deeply loathed. Honored for the burden the Redeemer of the Lost bears as he carries out his difficulty but necessary duties. Loathed because the duty is stained forever with the blood of his fellow battle brothers. In battle, Astaroth is a true angel of death, a somber, axe-wielding figure who shepherds the madmen at his side to a final, meaningful end. Astaroth has the sacred calling to seek out those amongst the scions of Sanguinius whose souls have been claimed by the terrible genetic flaw of the Blood Angels gene seed, known as the Black Rage, and whose mental degeneration has become so severe that even an honorable death in battle is no longer possible. His quarry found, Astaroth ends his lost battle brother's life with a single mighty blow to the neck, severing his head to thwart the fiendish endurance granted by the Black Rage. This is without doubt an act of mercy, a gift to the cursed. Nonetheless, no battle brother can ever feel entirely comfortable in Astaroth's presence, for they know that the bite of his forbidding axe might one day be the last thing that they feel. Whilst officially bound to the Blood Angels, Astaroth's duties carry him far and wide amongst the chapter's successors in the Sanguinary Brotherhood. It was long ago considered that these terrible duties were best borne by a single Astartes of Sanguinius' line. And, thus far at least, a single brother has been equal to the task at hand. So does Astaroth tread the stars, hacking apart those enemies who would prevent him from bestowing his gift of oblivion. To an observer, it might seem that Astaroth's presence fans the destructive fires of the Black Rage. Certainly it is more prevalent wherever he treads, and even those Blood Angels who remain sane are unmistakably wilder in the Redeemer's presence. However, the truth is entirely the opposite. Astaroth can sense the Black Rage's degenerative onset before it becomes apparent to any other soul, including its victim. Individual afflictions echo through his mind in the form of doom-laden quarrels, and grow ever stronger as other battle brothers fall into the Black Rage's clutches. No separation of distance can serve to mute this dolorous symphony. Whether the victims are fighting on Armageddon or in Ultramar, Astaroth can sense their plight, and he must go to them as his duty requires. So it is that the Redeemer of the Lost has become a true angel of death, a legend of destruction amongst the Blood Angels, their successor chapters, and their foe alike. Wherever Astaroth the Grim treads, the enemy face not only his fury, but the onslaught of Space Marines caught in the twilight shadows of the Black Rage. Astaroth's sorrow for his doomed battle brother serves only to fuel a determination that they shall pass into death, having known one last great victory. In this cause he fights like a man possessed, resolute that his twin gifts of death and redemption shall not be denied. I must ask, brother, what are your thoughts on Astaroth the Grim?
Okay, so I guess my question, so he hunts down these dudes, right, that are going to be suffering from the Black Rage. He shows up before they start to really go bonkers.
Yes, and then he's also in charge of, I mean, he originally does it so that they can have their like last hurrah in the Death Company. At the point
Right.
that they're like completely lost, even past the Death Company, that's when he has to kill them.
Okay.
Because
but it's
they're
not
no
before
longer,
then, right?
What?
It's not before then, right? So it's not like he shows up and he's like, crap, I gotta go somewhere else. This guy's gonna suffer from the Black Rage. Well, we might as well take care of this now.
No, which
Okay,
is
good.
which is a huge identifier difference from most chaplains. Most chaplains would be like, he's going to turn, shoot him, move on.
Okay. Well, no, that's a good thing because it's like you wouldn't want to get on his bad side then, because if you did, it's like he's suffering from the Black Rage. Well, you know, and everybody would be on his side. It's like, no, he wasn't. He just beat you at cards. You didn't want to pay up, you Wilcher. No, okay. So
No.
I just wanted to clarify that. Okay. So okay, one of the things though, I was kind of looking into this guy. I do think, first off, anyways, for those who are listening on our podcast, you should probably check out our YouTube channel because I'm gonna have pictures of this guy. He actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's got he's got a jump pack, which a lot of the Blood Angels do, but he's got wings on it.
Yeah.
That are supposed to mimic Sanguinius's wings, but they're black instead of white wings.
Yeah.
And he travels with a group of people called the Erelim. You want to tell us about them real quick before we move on? Because they're pretty cool in on themselves. They're like they're kind of like Death Watch, but creepier.
It's kind of, well,
or Raven Guard. You know,
one of the
they
easiest
look like they
ways
would
to
fit in with the
actually put
Raven
it-
Guard.
One of the easiest ways to actually kind of put it is you have Dante, who's the Golden Angel, and he has his sanguinary guard. And
Yep.
he's Astra's like almost a complete mirror image of that when it comes to this stuff. Because he's like black, everything, grim,
He's
dark.
a chaplain. Ironically, he wears red, but which is kind of ironic. But also, anyways, just before we move on, what's his relationship like, anyways, with Dante?
They don't say much concerning his.
Because you mentioned that they're kind of the polar opposites. So I kind of wondered if they got along or not.
You see Dante as everything's light, gold, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
You mean the color scheme?
Yeah. Well, the other thing about it, though, is that he's kind of gotten the bad job that Sanguinius had in comparison to the whole. Because
Hero of the Imperium. He's
Yeah.
the dark side of
Dante
Sanguinius.
was like
Go and
the
talk to him.
hero part, and then Grim Astrath gets the, oh, well, I have to murder my own people part.
I mean, the only reason he's probably still sane is because he fully understands that this is actually a mercy as opposed to a punishment.
Yeah, but like I said, one of the
Still,
reasons,
it's gotta tweak
one of the
with his
reasons
brain a
why
little
he's
bit.
one of the few chaplains that I actually don't mind and actually like is because he actually has a head on his shoulders. For
Well,
one
that
thing.
and quite frankly, compared to any other chaplain, he's probably got the worst job out of all of them.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
he's able to. What thing is, he's hopeful that at some point something's going to change and he won't have to keep doing this.
that's a good point.
A little bit of hope there. And so,
Yeah.
like, for example, we'll talk about him later, but the chaplain they'll be talking about later.
Oh yeah, the weed smoker. Crap, what's his name? Sorry, I mean the ganja smoker. What's it? Lamartes, right? Lamartes? Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, his character is very much tied with Astaroth.
Astrath.
Or whatever. Um,
Okay, to be fair, we both wish this name was Astrath. Because first of all, he has an axe called the Executioner's Axe.
right.
He is known as a Grim Reaper. Huh. Also similar to
Honestly,
Astrath.
personally, anyways, I like Astaroth better just simply because it rolls off the tongue better. But
Yeah. But you
like,
can totally see him. It will rain blood today. I mean,
Astaroth sounds like his dog Astro.
Wrath!
So Jane, his wife. Yeah. Sorry. Well, the guy I wanted to talk about, I know you're more of a fan of the people in the 41st millennium, but as you know, anyways, I love the Horus Heresy era. So today, anyways, I wanted to talk about Zephon, who was a former Dominion, that's kind of like a captain of the Blood Angels Legion, who later became the first chapter master of the Charnel God, the successor of the Blood Angels after the Horus Heresy. Noble though bleak in character, Zephon suffered from an extreme bloodthirst that he desperately held in check. As a destroyer marine during the Ninth Legion's compliance actions during the Great Crusade, Zephon earned the moniker the Bringer of Sorrow for his ruthless methods of war.
pardon me, brother, but I know we talked about destroyer marines in the past, but it's been some time, and perhaps some of our listeners don't remember or weren't listening when we did our voxes on the Salamander. You mind briefly explaining what a destroyer marine is?
Yeah, sure. And yes, the last time I think we did talk about him was the Salamanders, which was a really, really long time ago. Well, the origins of the destroyer squads lay in the conduct of the unification wars on Terra in the late 30th millennium, but surprisingly not with the forces of the Emperor, but with the armies of his techno-barbarian enemies. Considered dishonorable by some Space Marine legions who suffered their use outright, the destroyers were equipped with and expert in the use of otherwise prescribed and forbidden weaponry, including certain weapons of mass destruction, like alchemical and tactical nuclear weapons. These are the guys with da bombs. Now, alongside certain factions of the Mechanicum, only Astartes destroyer squads were sanctioned to use such forbidden weapons within the forces of the Imperium by the Emperor's command. The Blood Angels had two destroyer squads of note, the first being called the Angel's Tears. The second, which Zephon was part of, was called the High Host, or sometimes known as the Archae of the Principate. The High Host was made up of those warriors who bore the sorrowful duty of delivering Primarch Sanguinius' ultimate sanction to his enemies. Yet, unlike their brothers in the Angel's Tears, the High Host did not shrink away from showing their true faces to an uncaring galaxy as they deployed weapons born of humanity's darkest nightmares that left a trail of murdered worlds in their wake. Like his fellow Blood Angels, Zephon was both a warrior and an artist, as he was an accomplished musician with skill playing both the harp and the piano.
Really?
Indeed. I, in fact, have a recording of him playing one of his favorite pieces from ancient Terra. This is Zephon playing Wigan von Beethoven's Sadness in Moonlight.
A rather haunting melody.
Quite so, yet still one of my favorites. Anywho, moving on. During a battle against an unknown Xenos assailant, Zephon was grievously injured, losing both his arms, his left thigh, knee, and right foot to its blade. Surviving the battle, Zephon's limbs were replaced with augmetic appendages, though he often suffered the symptoms of rejection of the bionics, which dramatically worsened his health. No longer able to fight as well as his kin, and lacking the finesse to play the instruments that he had once mastered, Zephon would fall into a deep depression. With his martial prowess significantly diminished, Zephon was dispatched to Holy Terra to become a member of the Crusader host comprised of one legionary from each Space Marine Legion. Yet with the betrayal of Horus Lupercal and the eruption of the Horus Heresy, the Crusader host was disbanded, and its members imprisoned for interrogation to ensure no traitors lurked in Terra's midst. Free to aid the Imperium's war effort, Zephon tallied the dead of the war, yet grew restless while separated from his far-flung legion. Denied sanction to venture into the galaxy to locate his legion, Zephon was recruited by the custodian Diocletian Koros to aid in the secret war within the Webway, being fought beneath the Imperial Palace. Spending many of his days off duty within the Imperial Palace, Zephon formed an unlikely friendship with the Genius Mechanicum techno-archaeologist, Arkham Land. Oh no, this is the guy who made the Land Raider, right?
That and pretty much any other vehicle that has land at the beginning of it.
So the Land Crawler and the Land Speeder, those are also his designs.
He's also the one that the Emperor confided in that basically he just viewed the Primarchs as tools.
Pray tell, when that happened.
And no emotional connection at all. In fact, when he asked the Emperor why he allowed him to call him father, he just told the ancient story of the puppet named Pinocchio, who had sought to become a real boy, and explained that it was simply natural for any creation to refer to its creator as father.
I don't think he got the whole concept of that story, Pinocchio. The whole point was that Geppetto wanted a son. So he made one out of wood. Okay, anyways.
And if people didn't know that the Emperor was a dick, here's more proof.
No, anyways. Refitting Zephon's cybernetic limbs and improved augmetics, Lan enabled the crestfallen Blood Angel to fight with renewed vigor. However, Zephon's body still rejected the bionic implants after a period of time, much to the frustration of both the Blood Angel and Lan. The Blood Angels finally made their triumphant return to the throne world in the days before the start of the Siege of Terra. With the arrival of his legion, Zephon openly wept at the sight of his Primarch Sanguinius and his fellow Blood Angels. Following Zephon's reunion with his legion, Lan agreed to help Zephon overcome his immune rejection of his augmetic limbs. Lan chose to integrate ancient artificial intelligence technologies dating back to the Age of Technology into Zephon's body to trick his psiology into accepting the new implants. In return, Zephon agreed to take Lan before Sanguinius. Now, during the Siege of Terra, Zephon returned to the side of his kin at the forefront of battle. Zephon fought in defense of the Gorgon Bar and was wounded defending the Imperial Historiator Ceresgon. Placed within a stasis pod and delivered to Arkan Land, Zephon's body was swiftly healed through the ministrations of Land and his three blood thralls Shathia, Shankaya, and Ristis. Following his recovery, Zephon aided in Land's escape from his now besieged underground laboratory. Returning to the front line in defense of the Eternity Gate, Zephon and Arkan Land faced the hordes of traitors. Zephon briefly reverted to his more menacing persona by ordering Land to protect his thralls in the coming battle, or be beaten to death should he retreat. Though stern in his assertion, Zephon defended Land from the assaults of the traitors, while the two fought side by side, escorting his ally back to the Sanctum Imperialis as the traitors pushed their advance forward and took the Bahab Bastion. Zephon rallied several remaining loyalist Astarte officers such as Fafnir Ron, Maximus Thane, Azkillian, Setel Ameri, and the White Scars Kashyyyk, Commander Namahi, to serve under the command of Terra's most senior Astartes, Archimus, who was charged with defending the Inner Palace. During the subsequent battle, Zephon succumbed to his incandescent rage during the traitors' assault, tearing apart the oncoming heretic Astartes in a hail of gore. Rain and Zephon then led a desperate defense deep within the Sanctum Imperialis, which traitors were able to pour into as the Emperor, Dorn, and Sanguinius boarded the Vengeful Spirit. Upon sensing the death of Sanguinius at the hands of Horus, the Blood Angels Legion fell into the madness known as the Black Rage. Zephon was racked by visions of the death of his Primarch, but was able to keep most of his sanity. Why is not entirely clear, but Zephon speculated it was because his condition left him more numb to pain and despair. Zephon then added Fafnir Ron and other Imperialists against both Traitor and his own Berserk brothers. After the Imperial victory at Terra, he was seen taking part in a funeral service for Sanguinius alongside Raldoron as Killian and perhaps 500 other surviving Blood Angels. Following the end of the Horus Heresy and the subsequent campaign of the Great Scouring, the Space Marine legions were reorganized and broken down into separate, smaller chapters, starting with the second founding initiated by the Lord Commander of the Imperium, Rabute Gilman. One of these later successor chapters was the Charnel Guard, raised from the ranks of the surviving Blood Angels. Zephon was installed as the first chapter master of this Blood Angel successor. As the memories of the heresy transitioned from fact to myth, Zephon rarely told his battle brothers of his Gene Father's glorious deeds, though he would interject if others tellers of the tale claimed that Sanguinius waited during the battle for the Sanctum Imperialis. He would correct them by saying that Sanguinius did not stand with his back to the Eternity Gate and watch as the bane of the Ninth Bloodline, the bloodthirsty Kabanda, attacked the Royal Ascension. Though his listeners were always interested in hearing his first-hand account, Zephon often deferred to others to set historical records straight as legend replaced history. Zephon continued to fight for the Imperium with the Charnel Guard as a dour yet respected legend of the Siege of Terra. The remainder of his deeds after becoming master of the Charnel Guard are unfortunately lost to history. Kind of a sad character, but noble in his own right. Wouldn't you say, brother?
Yeah. In fact, he's one of those people that, first of all, well, I guess the Techmagos is in techno-archaeology, which is different than just, I'm going to try to make myself perfect machine.
Yeah. Right.
He's unique in the fact that he's able to become friends with somebody outside of the Astartes to begin with. That makes him more unique than most. Not even outside of just being Astartes, but outside of the chapter on top of that.
Unless, of course, you're in Iron Hands, who get along with the Mechanicum fantastically. But other than them, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Or there's a couple of other ones that also get along with the Mechanicus. And the fact that he was willing to fight side by side with Land at the gate. Not the gate, but during the siege.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that also was you didn't really have a choice. It's like either fight with this guy or die. It's like, okay.
Well, there's also the fact that he's just like, okay, you're going to protect these people.
Well, I think that's why he was so upset anyways, that the guy was like thinking of running. He's like, to where? Nowhere. You'll just die in a hole. Don't be a coward. I mean, I wish I'd actually found that. I know that it's written somewhere by some scribe, but I couldn't find it. I did find
that he's able to, that Land would turn around and actually fight by his side and not just go, screw that. You shoot me in the back if you want to.
Like I said, anyways, Zephon threatened to beat him to death with his own arms. So, and he wasn't kidding. He's just like, I will rip your arms off and beat you to death if you try to run. Oh, well, I guess I'm staying and fighting. Good. You know? Glad you see things my way.
So the fact he's able to trust him after that too, anyways.
That's I think anyways where you see actually the more of the friendship aspect of it is that when the fighting got thickest anyways, they ended up saving each other.
Yeah, it's like more of like, okay, as soon as he's actually going to stay here, I know he's going to stay here. He's going to be probably my best asset at this point.
Well, it's funny how that kind of works sometimes anyways. Like before battle, it's your brain starts going into overdrive. Like, I'm a little nervous about what we're supposed to do here, you know? But once you actually get into the thick of it, I mean, your instincts start to kick in. I mean, all the stuff that you've trained for, all that stuff anyway starts to function.
Right.
But I think, anyways, the thing I like about Zephon is that he is kind of like a cosm of what the Blood Angels are. If that makes sense.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
No, exactly.
Okay. So he is literally the Blood Angels.
Right.
In singular form, which I find interesting. So, I mean, he's like a fan of the arts. He likes, he's also a great warrior, but at the same time, there's this resounding sadness of, I mean, for him, anyways, it's a little bit more clear cut because he lost his arms and his legs and they couldn't get the robot parts to work. But with the Blood Angels, there's kind of this deep sadness within them because there's just kind of like, what's the point, kind of thing. But at the same time, there's also we talked about Zephon is, by the way, for those of you who have listened to our show for a while, anyways, he's the guy, anyways, that, like I said, Diocletian Saros, the custode. He's the one that we actually found that scribing of them talking to those people during the siege of Terra, the little boy and the little girl. And Zephon is very much, anyways, like the Blood Angels are. He really does care about humanity, and he's there to protect them. Aspect. But there's also, anyways, this darker side of him, this blood rage that he tries to keep contained. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So I think he's fairly interesting because he literally is he is the spectrum of what the Blood Angels are, but in singular form. And I don't think I've ever seen in any of the other Space Marines that we've talked about, have we ever seen anything that is remotely as similar as that.
Yeah.
Where you can literally see, it's like, I mean, if you know the story of Zephon, you know the story of the Blood Angels. That's kind of, and I think it's actually really cool aspect about him. But I mean, of all the other chapters that we've talked about, be it the Salamanders, the Space Wolves, I mean, all the people that we've talked about, I don't think we've ever had somebody, anyways, that if you looked at them, it's like you're looking at their chapter.
Right.
I mean, we've seen, like, for instance, like Logan Grumnar. I mean, he's definitely a Space Wolf, but I mean, he doesn't have all the attributes of the Space Wolves. Okay, so before we move on, is there any other character that you can think of that we've talked about that really encapsulates their chapter? Oh, maybe Tushan. Not talked about much. Saves people. Giant. A smithy.
Trying to slug somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
For committing mass murder. Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe Tushan, but other than that, I can't. Can you think of any?
Well, to be fair, when it comes to the Space Wolves, you look at pretty much any of them, and they're the epitome of what the entire chapter is to begin with.
Oh.
But
yes and no. I mean, their character within themselves, you can see, yes, this is a Space Wolf. Well, just like a Blood Angel or an Ultramarine or whatever, but their story in and of itself doesn't seem to encapsulate their legion or chapter as well as Zephon's does. Yeah. And while I said Tushan at the same time, anyways, Tushan also has that characteristic that the Salamanders do where they're not talked about much. So his story really doesn't encapsulate the chapter because we don't know enough about him.
Or enough about the chapter, for that matter. Really.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't think of, other than, and he's not really a Space Marine, Alfarius. Just simply because, I mean, he is his own chapter, and it's just, yeah, we are the CIA. We don't even know what we're doing, kind of thing.
We are the CIA, the KGB, and all the other alphabet mixed together.
We are the alphabet soup of the Legions.
40K. I
mean, I'm sure, anyways, that there are other characters that we just haven't talked about that do kind of the same thing that Zephon does, but the ones that we have personally talked about, I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head. If those of you listening, though, can think of some anyways, by all means, anyways, put them in the comments. I'm sure, the one that I'm thinking of that probably there is one that encapsulates it is probably the Raven Guard. There's got to be a Raven Guard dude, anyways, that encapsulates his chapter, but in his story. But unless you got something else to talk about Zephon, why don't we move on to the next guy you want to talk about?
Okay.
And that would be
That would be Donatos Raphael.
Raphael. He's missing an arm.
Raphael.
Sorry.
Serves as the current captain of the Blood Angels' second battle company, and also serves as the chapter's master of the watch.
Ooh.
Within the chapter, the second company is renowned for its purity both in mind and body. And of all the companies, theirs is among the least prone to mass instances of the Black Rage. The Blooded embody the perfection of sanguinius in both word and deed, and, when unleashed upon the battlefield by their commander, strive to live up to their Primarch's glorious example. In recent years, the star of Captain Raphael has been very much on the rise. Master of the Watch and commander of the Blood Angels' second company, Raphael has won himself countless commendations for victories against seemingly impossible odds. An exceptional battlefield commander and exemplar to his battle brothers, Raphael's perfect features hide a tormented soul. All Blood Angels wrestle with the Red Thirst, their skill in battle and tempered aggression rightly interwoven with the genetic flaws that slumbers in their flesh. Before his blooding, Raphael was on a path often dictated by the Red Thirst. In almost every battle, the blood rage robbed him of his senses, sending him howling into his foes.
Excuse me, but what is
The blooding.
or what is blooding? Is it the blooding, or is it just
Blooding.
Blooding.
What is it?
The blooding is both a rite of initiation and a perpetual procedure. During this rite, the Brothers of Blood Angels allow the Red Thirst to fully take them and vent their savage fury upon the enemies of the Imperium. Then they master their own fury, subside it, and take up full control over themselves. It is from this ritual that the Second Company get their name, the Blooded. And, though it looks barbaric, due to the fulfillment of this rite, the Second Company shows slower rates of succumbing to the appalling Black Rage.
I do got a question. So when you say anyways that they are vent their savage fury upon the Imperium, does that mean that they like put him in a cage with a bunch of grots and go get him, or is it like they like zap him when they get onto a battlefield and and say good luck?
I would assume it'd be more the latter than the first, because I just can't see the Blood Angels going, we need to collect these random victims that we'll shove in here.
Yes, I understand the aspect of what they're trying to accomplish here, but it sounds like if they want it in a controlled environment,
Yeah.
So do they do it in a controlled environment, or is it more of a when they reach the battlefield, it's like, all right, it's time for your blooding. Good luck.
I'm thinking it's more of the second, but maybe more of there's this one secluded area that we know that isn't going to burst out or something like that. So it's a contained part of the battlefield.
So they get to a planet and it's like infested with orcs, right? And so they take them aside for the blooding aspect, and they go, okay, you guys are going to attack this hut with grots.
This crater that has orcs in it. That's
all it has in it anyways is grots. And there's the enemy. Go get them. Wouldn't you be better used anyways? You're Space Marines. Shouldn't you be at the front? No, unfortunately, this is a procedure we have to go through. That's the other thing. It's a procedure. You know that they have an accountant sitting there going, yes, well, it's time for your blooding. Master Donovan. Again? Yes.
No.
Actually,
you just forgot to do it the first time. You're only supposed to have to do this once. I don't know how they missed you.
Okay. All right. Sorry. But okay, well, at least it clears it up. So the concept is that they actually allow themselves to go in the Red Thirst, and then it's after all the enemies are dead, they try to come back from it.
They basically have to force themselves out of it instead of
Or do they have a salamander on the back end that shakes them, like Tushan did with Dante?
No, unfortunately not.
Unfortunately not.
There are too few to actually have that many rats.
Uh, how do we escape the red thirst? Black guys. What? Yeah, they just sit
Big.
into the battlefield. They just shake us. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Don't be afraid of the red glowing eyes. They're.
All we do is we give them grape juice and sorry. Sorry. Go ahead. All right. So that's the blooding. Well,
Yes. Well, each time the captain had been able to claw himself back from the edge of madness, but each time the recovery grew harder. Perhaps this was why Aphael was placed in command of the second company, as Lord Commander Dante recognized a great leader in Donatos, and was loath to lose him to the ravage of the Red Thirst. So basically he said, you go here so they can do the blooding, which makes you once again go into the Red Thirst. If you survive, you'll be good to go. Otherwise, you're screwed.
this sounds a lot like from what you've talked about, anyways, with the Grey Knights and their initiation, where they shove a demon into a Grey Knight. It's like you either live and kill the demon, or we kill you.
Yeah,
kind of sounds the same, but this is more of a genetic thing.
It's worse than Grey Knights because you have to be possessed and then unpossess yourself.
Right. Well, no, so it's kind of the same thing. It's like you need to go into this barbaric red thirst and then pull yourself out of it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, fortunately, the chapter master's faith was well founded, and in time, Donatos would rise to the occasion with the responsibility of leadership and the sacrosanct traditions of the blooded to guide him. However, it remains a fine line between control and madness, one Aphael must face whenever he leads his brothers into battle. Under his leadership, the blooded have known many great victories over the enemies of the Emperor, and in recent years, Dante has come to favor the Second Company for those war zones of greatest importance to the chapter. It was Aphael and the blooded that were dispatched when the mineral-rich Grimmick sector was invaded by the expansionist armies of the Tau Empire. On worlds of ash and sand, the Blood Angel's Second Company fought a war of attack and counterattack, striking the Xenos in swift and bloody ambushes, and withdrawing before the Tau could muster their full might. The alien commanders came to believe Aphael's force was much larger than the 100 Space Marines present in actuality. The smoking field of the dead fire warriors and gutted devilfish left in their wake seemingly the work of a massive army of the period. For 5 long months, the blooded blunted the advance of the Tau armies into the Grimmick sector, ripping apart the Xenos piece by piece, until their leaders acknowledged that their losses were unsustainable and their countermeasures ineffective, and ultimately retreated before the might of the Blood Angels. Despite his strong youthful appearance, Captain Aphael is a veteran of countless bloody campaigns and bitter wars. When Aphael and the Blooded fought alongside the Astral Knights against the Necron World Engine, the captain gained a new hatred for the ancient alien. Victory came only when the Astral Knights sacrificed themselves to destroy the Xenos space station, and Aphael was among those that would call for the creation of a monument to the fallen chapter and their sacrifice. The Battle Brothers present that day recall the cold rage in their captain's eyes as the shattered remains of the Astral Knights' battle barge were driven into the ash waste of Safehold as a towering tombstone to the vanquished chapter. Aphael is possessed of boundless strength and energy. He values the life of every single servant of the Emperor, be they Space Marine, Adeptus Mechanicus, Cyborg, or unaugmented human soldier, and will fight with everything he has to preserve and defend them. Aphael is charismatic in the extreme, from his angelic features and noble humility to his exceptional skills as an orator. His words lift even the most desperate and defeated of warriors, filling their hearts with new courage and a determination to do the Emperor's will. It is Aphael's sheer force of personality, his optimism and hope, as much as the words he speaks, that rouse his followers to new heights of heroism. More than one seemingly doomed fight has been won at the last by impassioned rhetoric and heroic deeds of Captain Aphael. Aphael's skills in combat are every bit as great as his words. Aphael is a skilled swordsman and an excellent shot. But if his century and a half of battlefield experience has taught him anything, it is that personal heroics, while grand and often crucial to victory, cannot match the might of an army of exceptionally trained and equipped warriors acting as one. Aphael has drilled his battle company to perfection. The captain watches over every aspect of his battle brothers' lives, ensuring that not only are they exceptionally well drilled for combat, but that their spiritual focus is absolute and their command theoreticals are of the highest standard. Every Space Marine battle company is a highly trained and elite force, but the blooded stand out as exceptional even by these standards. Aphael claims with confidence that, should he and his lieutenants fall in battle, any given warrior from amongst his ranks could rise to take command of the company at a moment's notice. It is furthermore an undeniable fact that the Second Company suffers the fewest instances of both the Red Thirst and Black Rage of any Blood Angels company save the first. So, who should we cover next?
Speaking of the first, the next guy I wanted to talk about was Rhanos Carlion, mainly because of the massive thunder hammer that he wields. Now, no Space Marine earns the mantle of captain of the chapter's first company without the faith of his chapter master and the respect of his battle brothers. Captain Carlion has served the Blood Angels with distinction for over 400 years, ascending to the leadership of the Archangels after serving within the first company for over a century of war and carnage. In his time, he has gained the admiration of his peers and of Commander Dante himself. Rhanos Carlion possesses a keen tactical mind that has guided his brothers to victory time after time. It was this singular understanding of warfare that first drew the attention of his company captain and Commander Dante. While all other Space Marines undergo rigorous psycho-conditioning and constant tactical training, Rhanos' ability go beyond this. With a mere glance, he is able to gain the measure of a conflict and formulate an effective response, often drawing from the ancient teachings of the Codex Astartes as inspiration. As a young battle brother, Carlion first displayed his tactical acumen during the war for the world of Baristar 19, not to be confused with Baristar 17, against the speed freaks of Krogdok, when Carlion's sergeant was decapitated by an orc cannon. He assumed temporary command of his squad. Using the world's Skybridge network as a battlefield, Carlion trapped the Xenos among the bridge's complex cogwork gates. Robbed of their mobility, the orcs became easy prey for the Space Marines and were quickly defeated. This action would be the first of many to draw the eye of Dante. More victories followed, and with each one, Carlion's renown among the Blood Angels was increased. When Rhanos entered the ranks of the Archangels, it was as a veteran sergeant of the Terminator Squad. At the Battle of Forlorn Falls, it was Carlion's Terminators that led the counterattack that broke through the fortifications of the Iron Warriors. On Evolved 12, Carlion led the line against the Orcs of the Shattered Fang tribe, foiling their attacks one after another. The destruction of more than half a dozen Space Hulks can be laid at Rhanos' feet, and since entering the first company, he has led many of the missions to purge the Imperium of this insidious threats. The Doom of Vorgoth, Divine Purgatory, and Twilight Aegis are names now synonymous with Carlion, and he was the captain responsible for clearing these Space Hulks with only a handful of battle brothers. It was on the Doom of Vorgoth that Rhanos was almost killed by the Necro Golem, a Nurgle demon of meat and metal. The vile creature had turned the Space Hulk into a playground of pestilence and disease, filled with myriads of traps to ensnare the unwary. Carlion would eventually destroy the creature by venting its sump palace to the void and freezing the necrogolem in a tomb of its own filth. Carlion has also fought the creatures of the Tyranid hive fleets many times, having personally led a score of missions to defend worlds beset by the Great Devourer. For those reasons, Carlion was chosen by Corbulo to lead a special mission upon the world of Fodia, which would see him tested beyond any situation he had faced before. Though Corbulo suspected Carlion would face fearsome foes on the planet's surface, the sanguinary high priest had complete confidence in the captain's strategic ability and his utter dedication to duty. Dante's gift to the captain, the Hammer of Baal, is a monstrous tool of war. Yet for its size, Carlion wields it usually in one hand, while firing his Stormbolter, which he is incredibly accurate with his other hand because of his bionic eye. Now, Carlion's bionic eye is a rare and potent piece of archaeotech, a blessed relic of the chapter. The mechanical eye can see in multiple spectrums and has been slave to the optical augers of the Stormbolter. As such, this archaeobionic lens grants exceptional accuracy, even against distant targets, allowing him to deliver accurate bursts of fire at long range, almost without aiming. To put it bluntly, anything he runs into will explode in immediate bits before they even know what hit them, be it a hammer or a bolt. Now, okay, we've got what? We've got time for one last guy, right? So who else are we going to talk about today? Oh, we got to talk about the ganja smoker, right?
You mean Lamartes?
Yes, Lamartes. Tell us about Lamartes.
Lamartes is a Death Company chaplain and the warden of the Blood Angels chapter's infamous Death Company. Under his guidance, the Death Company has reached a new level of potency and lethality. Though Lamartes himself is afflicted by the cursed Black Rage, his formidable willpower has allowed him to remain in control of his actions, leaving him free to lead the Death Company in glorious charges that eclipse all the deeds of legend. Now, Zeckthar just mentioned that Lamartes smoked the rare plant called Ganja wakandis.
Yes, and I just say, that's an interesting way of trying to get rid of the Black Rage.
Yes, it is, and there were some inferences in my research of them trying to use this to help him, but due to a few snags, they stopped the experiment so he no longer smoked.
Oh, well, okay. What sort of snags caused him from being, at least anyways, a calmer individual to being the guy that we all know now?
Well, first off, the horrific skunk scent somewhat impaired his ability to smell other things while he was smoking it, because, you had this huge horrific smell right in front of you.
I always thought that he smoked. It wasn't when he was in battle. That doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to have all the blood flowing anyways while you're in battle. I always thought that he smoked it anyways when, like before battle. To keep him from, murdering everybody around him. To keep the Black Rage in check. Makes me wonder anyways if Sanguinius smoked the weed. But anyways.
The second problem was that his body basically eliminated all but slight traces of the drug, making it virtually useless to begin with.
So his the extra what do they call them? Gene seeds, anyways. They just kind of slowly, or they actually quickly adapted to it, so it just doesn't do anything for him anymore.
Didn't do much of anything, and when they thought about possibly increasing the dosage to the point that it might actually do something,
It'd just be too much.
There's some certain side effects that they noticed in some other people that had high doses of this particular thing that they was things like,
well, at least they tried the rare herb Ganja wakandis instead of trying some psychedelic mushrooms or stim packs, anyways. Both of which, anyways, would have done probably the exact opposite of what they wanted to do.
Yeah, in this case, one of the key concerns is it causes difficulty of concentrating. So this kind of key when you're trying to make sure that you don't go insane, being able to concentrate on stuff.
I wonder if they'll actually end up using that anyways for the fact that anyways they're trying to get him from point A to point B. Like when they first suffer the Black Rage, getting him to the Death Company. That way it's easier for transfer. And then again, anyways, they've got the stasis pod, so it's probably not that big of a deal anyways. But,
Yeah.
so he doesn't smoke the ganja anymore.
No.
That's disappointing. Well, okay.
So we're back.
We are kind of running out of time. Could you let us know anyways some of the great feats that he's done,
certainly. Now during
or how he's actually been able to combat the Black Rage.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I could tell you how he wasn't killed.
Okay, yeah, let's start with that.
Suffering from it. Now, during the preparation to liberate the world of Hedriath 11, Chaplain Lamartes fell to the effects of the dreaded Black Rage. Unlike his fellow afflicted warriors of the Death Company, Lamartes survived the initial assault and, seemingly unstoppable, carved a bloody swath through the Orc defenders. When the battle was finally won, only then did Lamartes finally collapse from his numerous wounds. The mortally wounded Lamartes was brought to the apothecaries to await the arrival of Astrath the Grim. And here's something that I'm wondering when reading this. Okay, apothecarian. If he's going to be killed, why would you be giving him to the apothecaries? Because, they're waiting for Astrath to come to give the gift of final redemption by the Blade of Zex. Why don't you just let him die, since they had to literally bring him to the apothecarian?
What if he didn't die? I mean, they are they are Astartes.
There's something about mortally wounded that makes me think, he was going to die. Of course, it could be hyperbole and it wasn't actually mortally wounded. But
I mean, it could also very well be anyways that Astaroth anyways was on the planet and they're just like, well, this is a good ceremony for him to doff him. I mean, the Blood Angels are very big on, all Astartes are very big on ceremony. I mean, it very well could have been just like, well, he's in the area, so we could get him anyways, and that would be a great honor for him to die anyways by the axe of Astaroth. Or Wrath.
Astaroth. But when Astaroth arrived to deliver Lamartes into death's embrace, he demanded to live, to continue to smite the Emperor's enemies as long as he still drew breath. Such a thing had never occurred. Though Lamarte's eyes were bloodshot and his muscles taut with fury, his words were clear and cogent. Most members of the Death Company that survived a battle were usually so deranged that Astaroth had to best them in combat before being able to take their lives.
That might be another thing too. While you said he's mortally wounded, I mean, when you think of the Berserkers of old and Terran 42, or you think of Berserker squads, a lot of times anyways, they can be mortally wounded, but because the adrenaline is pumping through them so much, they don't die. So maybe this was anyways, the concept was like, well, we can at least stabilize him at this point, and if we do, then maybe he'll come out of it, and then we can whack his head off. Instead of
what we're going with here.
Or maybe it was also the aspect that they called for the apothecarian, and the apothecarian showed up and goes, oh, he is suffering from the Black Rage. That's probably the most likely thing. They're like, oh, he's dying. We need to save him. And then the apothecarian shows up and he's like, oh, no, there's no saving him from this thing. That's probably what ended up happening. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Never before had one challenged Astrath in so lucid a fashion. Quashing all dissent, Astrath ordered the chaplain placed in stasis and returned to bail until the chapter's librarians and sanguinary priests could make a full examination of it. The investigation took several months, time in which Lamartes was largely kept in the chill embrace of stasis to ensure the safety of those around him. But the results seemed to reinforce Astrath's hope. Lamartes was unquestionably in the grip of the Black Rage, for all the physical signs were there, yet his mind was not riven with insanity. Through an act of incredible willpower, the chaplain appeared able to hold his madness in check. Several sanguinary priests argued that this was but a temporary respite, and that Lamartes would succumb to the uttermost depths of madness once removed from stasis, but Asterath was not so sure. Refusing to slay Lamartes, as some of the sanguinary priests wished, he awoke the chaplain from his enforced slumber and offered him a way in which he could continue to serve. So did Lamartes become the guardian of the lost and wielder of the ancient blood Crozius. He has repaid Asterath's faith 1,000 times over, for the blood of the Death Company have never been so potent a force as they are under his guidance. Their modern glories eclipsing deeds of legend. He leads his charges to ever greater renown, ensuring that the dread sacrifice of the Blood Angels Death Company is never in vain. At battle's end, Lamartes is placed in stasis once more, to slumber through the solar weeks and months till his bloody talents are required again. For Lamartes, this is no longer any calm before the storm. His life is one of constant battle, for he is awoken when needed and preserved when he is not. Surely the chaplain is living on borrowed time, for even his formidable willpower cannot keep the black rage at bay indefinitely. Yet for the moment at least, Lamarte's iron will continues to hold firm. For a chapter slipping into darkness, Lamartes stands out as a symbol of hope. For if Lamartes can continue to reason and continue to serve his chapter within the dark insanity of the black rage swelling within him, perhaps others can do so as well.
Well, folks, there you have it. The Blood Angels. But before we go, I think it prudent that we look back on these guys and give our final thoughts on the chapter as a whole.
Quite right, brother. And let me start by asking this question. Excluding Dante, who's your favorite notable character?
Probably Zephon.
Zephon?
Like I said, anyways, I've never seen, anyways, a character really encompass their whole chapter in their story like Zephon does. Don't get me wrong. What's his name? The captain of the first company is pretty cool. He looks really cool. He honestly looks like he
Captain
should be
K?
Salamander. Aurelius Corleone. Yes. He's got this giant warhammer and a storm bolter. I mean, he looks like he should be part of the Salamanders because he's just that big. But no, probably Zephon.
Okay.
Like I said, he just encompasses what the Blood Angels are. He's this noble warrior that has his faults that he tries to work through, and he's got the compassion, the artistry that the Blood Angels do, and they really are this. Actually, they're an incredibly noble chapter, but they have this barbarism about them, and as opposed to, like, for instance, the Space Wolves, who are very proud of their barbarism. Well, it's not necessarily their barbarism; it's the aspect of they're very proud of their traditions and whatnot. The Blood Angels kind of keep it secret. They don't want anybody knowing about this, and that all stems back from Sanguinius and the Revenant Legion, and so it's they very much display, like, for instance, Zephon, this character of this very noble character that has these hidden faults that he keeps trying to keep hidden, but he, turns out it saves him a couple of times, kind of thing. So it's not something, anyways, that, yeah. Well, who's your favorite character? Is it Astaroth or Asterath?
Out of the ones that we've talked about, it's him and Dante are pretty much the top two.
Well, you said excluding Dante.
Yes. Well,
that's why I didn't say Dante.
Immediately, you would say, "Oh, Dante." But yeah, Astrath is probably one of my favorites just because of his contrast to any other chaplain. Look at, for one thing. And for another thing, is like he still has this hope, underlying hope, that he won't have to keep doing this. That there will be some sort of cure.
That, and quite frankly, as a chaplain, anyways, he's portrayed as this. Actually, I mean, while he is this very dour, like all other chaplains are, and bloodied warrior. He also has this merciful aspect of him that you just don't see in any other chaplains.
Yeah.
Normally, when you think of chaplains, you think of like the hard, fast, like you think of what's his face, the Dark Angels guy.
Asmodai.
Yeah, Asmodai, where it's just like,
They were
you
talking
guys
too much.
thought this was funny? Silence for 7 years. Kind
I
of
want
thing.
you to kill this entire company. Why? Because it took them a couple more seconds to answer than they should have.
Astaroth or Wrath, anyways, would probably, if you told him a joke, he actually might chuckle about it, which is interesting compared to any other chaplain. I just don't see any other chaplain having a sense of humor. And I don't think he really does either, but I could see him anyways, at least giving you a smile, acknowledging, yes, he tried some humor,
I
He tried
understand
to
that you
cheer me
tried
up.
to
I
make something
appreciate
uplifting. I
Yeah.
don't really.
Okay, so my question to you, though, my first question to you is, what makes the Blood Angels stand out to you other than the Red Thirst and the Black Rage? So I kind of briefly explained, anyways, why I think they stand out, but why do you think they stand out?
Part of it is, like you said, they have this noble appearance that's different than, I think, technically when you look at any of the other ones, I think pretty much all the other ones don't really have the same sort of noble like features that they do. I mean, you have the Dark Angels; they have the whole like knight-like look, very.
Well, they're all sires of their fathers.
Yeah.
And Sanguinius was pretty much the prettiest out of all of them, other than maybe Fulgrim. But so they all kind of have his traits, which is always interesting because the aspect of they come from the radioactive Baal and Baal Secundus. So and then they get put in that crypt. It's almost like a easy bake oven. They throw them in the sarcophagus, and at first they're like this disheveled, horrible looking individual, anyways, and they pop them back out. They're just like beautiful angels. And you got to cook them just right, because if you don't, anyways, they die. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So, and then there's the aspect of them wanting to grasp onto some sort of hope, or some sort of positive thing. Like, for example, Zephon having the desire to look into the arts and be able to play the piano in the harp. Or I assume some of them are aspiring artists of some sort.
The only two that I can think of, anyways, that really had that whole like artistry aspect to them for the legions was the Blood Angels and then the Emperor's children.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you're talking about smithing, in which case there's a bunch of different legions.
Smithing, there's only two really notable ones.
Yeah, 3. Iron Warriors also dabbled in that a wee bit.
That's what I mean. Iron Warriors. Yeah. Kind of.
I mean, normally you think of the Iron Hands and the Salamanders, but yeah. I think the other thing, though, that's interesting about the Blood Angels is that they're probably out of all the space, at least the first founding chapters, anyways, they're probably the most human. Because of this aspect, anyways, that they have this thing that they try to hide, anyways, it gives them a particular humility about them that doesn't give them that awe-inspiring. I mean, even the Salamanders, who are the defenders of humanity, they think of themselves far better than your average human because, well, they are. They're Astartes, kind of thing. With the Blood Angels, I think they're one of the few chapters where they realize, anyways, that they still have the faults of humans. And because of the Black Thirst or the Black Rage and the Red Thirst, I know I said other than the Red Thirst and the Black Rage, but I think, anyways, that this is actually fairly important to who they are.
Right.
But I hear what you're saying. Well, what's your next question?
Do you think they'll ever find a cure for either the Red Thirst or the Black Rage, or both?
No. But I actually kind of have a follow-up question for that real quick. I'll give an explanation here in a second. But if they somehow happen to, anyways, what would Astaroth's job be?
He would still be a high chaplain.
A reclusiarch? Okay. But how I mean, would he become just the regular grumpy chaplain that we all know at this point? Or do you think he would actually, you think he would just be like, this is crap. I don't want to do this job anymore. Before, anyways, I understood what I was doing. Now, anyways, I'm supposed to be the grump of the of the Legion or the chapter. I want a different job.
What would be awesome is if he ended up becoming like the Dante's champion. Because at this point, you gotta know he's very, very skilled with that.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very skilled.
That would be pretty cool. But
it's like, we have a new champion, by the way. Really?
To answer your question, anyways, the Red Thirst and the Black Rage, the only way I could see, I don't think the Red Thirst will ever be cured.
Yeah.
Because that's something, anyways, that is just specifically designed into their genomes because it was part of Sanguinius. So it's part of that. The Black Rage, on the other hand, the only way I could foresee that actually not being a thing is if they ever figure out, anyways, what they did with the Lamenters and then back off the whole bad luck thing.
But the bad luck part, yeah.
Either that or if somehow, anyways, the warp, whatever part of Sanguinius' spirit that's still within the warp ends up coming back, which I don't think will happen. I think Sanguinius is just straight up dead. I mean, sure, his spirit might be floating in the warp, but that doesn't mean, anyways, that he has an ability to come back.
Right.
But if, because the warp does like the whole tomfoolery bit, if he does happen to come back, anyways, through the warp, then I could see the Black Rage, anyway, subsiding because he's back.
I can see Zinch deciding to randomly do that. If anybody, if any of the gods, Zinch
why do they do that, though? That doesn't make any sense. I'm just saying the warp within itself might spit him back out because it's the warp. It's all tomfoolery. But it's the magic beans of Warhammer 40K. Does it make sense? No. But ta-da! It's wizard stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the only thing I could think of. Do you think, anyways, they could find a cure, or there's another way that they might be able to find a cure?
I don't know. The only way they could think of it is if maybe somehow they're able to work with the Grey Knights, so they could find a way through the Grey Knights and them working together. Because I think they'd be the closest people to knowing anything with warp psychic-related issues. If you think about it.
Oh, so you're thinking the Black Rage has to do with the warp instead of their genomes?
Well, the Black Rage is created due to a psychic phenomenon that the Primarch created. Right.
So first off, anyways, you do agree with me, anyways. You don't think, anyways, that there's any way they can fix the Red Thirst, right?
No.
Okay. So we're really actually
They're
just talking
vampires.
About
it's not going to change. They're going to be vampires.
It's just going to happen. Yeah. That's never going to change. Blah, blah. Yeah, that's not changing.
The Black Rage to choose the right accent. The right accent must be Transylvanian.
Yes. So the Black Rage, you're thinking, anyways, if they could somehow, anyways, work with the Grey Knights. The Grey Knights don't really work with anybody other than the Inquisition.
In some cases.
And the Inquisition doesn't work with the Blood Angels on any of this stuff because they kind of tried to keep it away from the Inquisition, correct? Even though the Inquisition has theories on different things about the Blood Angels, but I think this is kind of like the Dark Angels trying to keep secret what happened to the Fallen. Right? First rule about the Black Rage is we don't talk about the Black Rage.
Yeah. I can see them getting... Okay, the Grey Knights do work with the Inquisition, but they do have the option of not working with the Inquisition also.
Well, oh, you mean like on separate missions that don't have to do with the Inquisition?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, but so it would require the Blood Angels to actually take a leap of faith to actually talk to the Grey Knights.
Yeah.
Who aren't technically supposed to exist. And nobody knows about. Yeah, okay. I mean, I hear you that they probably would be the only guys that could help. I just don't know any ways if they could, just simply because I don't know if the Blood Angels realize that they even exist. I mean, Dante probably does. I mean, he's been around 1,500 years.
Yeah.
He's been around long enough. He's probably figured it out. Well, not only that, but if I recall right, when we talked about the months of shame, I think all the chapter masters know of the Grey Knights, but the people underneath them don't know about them.
Yeah.
Because the Grey Knights are supposed to be kept secret. So, so yeah, like I said, Dante would know about him. So, I mean, if he really wanted to, he might be able to be like, "Hey, we've got this thing, anyways. We need you to check out." But then he would have to have enough trust in the Grey Knights not to just look at them and go heresy and then murder them all.
Of course, at the same time, if he knows who the Grey Knights are, he'd be like, "Well, they deal with demons. This obviously isn't a demon,
right?" But they do have the whole warp thing, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I can see anyways how they could probably help with the Black Rage. I don't know if they'd be able to fix it though. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, interesting thought. My next question is: what kind of tactics do the Blood Angels specialize in? I mean, and how does this help them on the battlefield? We didn't really get a chance to talk about that. Do you mind just briefly kind of talking about what the tactics are for the Blood Angels?
Well,
they're the hoppy guys.
Yeah, they are very much a fast attack. Jump in there.
But not fast attack like White Scars.
No.
White Scars like to ride things.
And they'll tend to sting instead of just go, I'm going to go in and try to murder everything and keep going and keep going. No, they'll be like, we'll go in, we'll hit, we'll go around, and we'll hit you from behind, and we'll go around.
Blood Angels are, okay, correct me if I'm wrong anyways, their tactics are normally, they are very much jump pack.
Yeah.
Flying from the sky, strike hard. Yeah. They're the spearhead, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in
go ahead and explain anyways.
To the Black Templars who just go like, we're gonna go in like a hammer.
Well, yeah, they're yeah. But go ahead. Sorry, I keep talking ahead of you.
They're more of a. So yeah, their normal doctrines is to close with the weakest point of the enemy at the earliest opportunity under covering fire. And then they're supported by mounted tactical units to exploit the breakthrough that they make. Generally, they make this breakthrough with either jump packs or, more often than not, they'll start with the Death Company going in first. And then the assault units will carry on into successive enemy positions behind the front line, preventing an organized response, while the rest of the units conduct a mop-up of the remaining enemies and move into positions of support, pinning down the next target with available firepower. So basically, it's we strike fast, we'll break through, start taking over emplacements under cover fire, and then after we take over those emplacements, what was behind comes up, and then we do it again. So it's a constantly moving forward process. This would also help with the fact that if somebody randomly goes in the Black Rage, they're more than likely be up front. It's meant as kind of like hopping. So another way to put it is, correct me if I'm wrong, Zeckthar. This would be it's more of we strike hard, then under covering fire, we'll jump into enemy positions behind so that they can keep that covered, allowing the people that were behind them to come in and wave through what's left. So they can put in pinning fire and then continue on like that. So it's basically a move cover sort of thing.
they're very much, anyways, precision strike tools. They're like the scalpel that you want to use, anyways, on a battlefield. They are, if you need to take a particular place, anyways, and you need to do it fast, you call a Blood Angel or a squadron of Blood Angels. Now, the one thing you don't want them to do is try to hold a position because they can't do it. They're just not designed that way. There's a couple reasons for that. First off, is that, like I said, they're fast strike. I mean, they're designed to hit something, kill everything there, anyways, and then jump back.
And of course, we have the whole, well, not necessarily jump back, jump forwards.
Well,
more unlikely.
Back or forwards, just we're not staying stationary. We're moving on to the next objective, or we are moving back to reload, resupply, and then move back forwards. So, I mean,
of course, another reason is the Black Rage and the Red Thirst.
And the Red Thirst. This is aspect.
We're going to hold the line, and all of a sudden one goes frothing and right next to it. No!
And then they all go flying off.
The line.
And that's just something as a commander that you just do not want to have. You know, you do not want to be. I mean, there's been many times where I have been playing strategic warfare games where I've had units that just straight up disobey orders and just charge into the enemy. And there's been many a times where that's helped me. And then there's been a lot of times where I've almost lost battles because of it. Because I need them to hold a position. I need them to move in a particular direction. And if they don't do that, then it's a problem. So on a commander's level, anyways, that can be a huge problem. But yeah, like you said, anyways, fast strike force, spear tip. Yeah.
Do you think the Inquisition or the High Lords of Terror will ever try to kill off the Blood Angels?
No. Not at all. A couple reasons for that. First off is that, I mean, I understand what okay, so I'm assuming anyways the question has to do with the Black Rage and the Red Thirst, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So first off, anyways, as far as I know, anyways, that isn't public knowledge. Neither
is the Inquisition.
I mean, the closest you can probably see the closest to being public knowledge is the Red Thirst, because it's probably been on many accounts on battles where, you know, they get blood drunk and they just go nuts, right? Now, mind you, anyways, they're not the only chapter of Astartes that does that. So it's probably just chalked up as, oh, it's another Astartes going bonkers. It's really actually more, anyways, the Black Rage that I think would concern the Inquisition. Now, the thing is that does the Inquisition know about the Black Rage? I don't know if they do or not. I would guess that they probably don't. And if they do, it's a kind of kept secret, even within the Inquisition, very much like the Fallen for the Dark Angels. Do people in the Inquisition know about the Fallen? Probably, because they're the Inquisition. But it's not common knowledge even within the Inquisition. Let's put it that way. So why would they? That's, if it's not common knowledge, then why would they try to kill off the Blood Angels?
Right.
That's kind of my argument there. But the other thing too is that they are one of the first founding chapters. You'd have to come on really strong and have a very good argument to try to eradicate them. I mean, they tried with the Space Wolves. It didn't work out very well. And I mean, I just don't see, anyways, the Inquisition, especially with Guilliman back. The Inquisition would really have to prove to Guilliman that they were not even just heretics; they would chaos possessed. They would have to prove to Guilliman that they were chaos possessed. Because as we know, anyways, Guilliman he doesn't really care about heretics. he cares about it or heresy. He cares about like chaos spawn. That, and it's like, okay, yeah, that I can see that anyways. But the whole, anyways, they're not part of the ecclesiarchy, so therefore they're heretics. He doesn't care about that. He quite frankly, anyways, hates it. Because the aspect of, I mean, he grew up with the imperial truth. This was not what the emperor wanted, you know. So they would really have to push to try to kill the Blood Angels. And not only that, but on top of that, Rabute Gilliman claimed Dante as the Lord Imperator of the Nihilist sector. So I just don't see it.
Okay.
Can you see a way that it actually would make sense?
Well, if it went to the High Lords of Terra before Gilliman popped up, I can see them trying to be idiotic enough because they're the High Lords of Terra to try something like that for some stupid reason. Kind of like
It
how
wouldn't
the
have to benefit
Badab
them.
War.
Yeah, okay. But Ab War was a little bit different. It would have to benefit them, the High Lords of Terra, for them to move against the Blood Angels too. And at this point, the Blood Angels haven't done anything that really would benefit the High Lords from taking them out. It had to be like they conquered a world that was like made entirely out of like diamonds and platinum, and they weren't going to share it with anybody. And the High Lords were like, heresy! They would. And actually, it wouldn't even be a planet. It had to be like a whole solar system that they found. Because the Imperium is so big. But yeah. Okay, last question. Speaking of the Imperial Nihilists. Well, Dante has briefly met up with a lion on a couple of occasions. Gilliman has named Dante the Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilist. What do you think Dante will do if the lion wants to take command? Or tries to?
Well, first of all, I don't think there is technically anything he can do other than maybe just say contacting Gilliman and asking what he would want him to do.
I don't know what to do. There's another one of you out here. And he's telling me he wants to be in charge. But you put me in charge. I don't know what to do.
No more like, you're going to have to come over here and do something about it. I can't.
You've got to talk to your older brother. I'm not doing it. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But, I mean, he very well could anyways. I mean, because he has been named Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilist. He could very well refuse. I don't know. Here's another question anyways. Why would he? That, I think, is the more interesting question.
Maybe because he would be able to judge. Well, you could probably judge Lionel Joseph's character just by the way he's acted so far. Actually. From what. Because he knows he's been around for a little while and all of a sudden he's just decided to pop up.
Well, first off, anyways, the Lion hasn't tried to take over at all.
Yeah.
At this point. And he's met Dante a couple of times. The first time, anyways, Dante actually showed up with the whole regiment, anyways, and as soon as he saw him, anyways, he's like, my lord, because he's meeting another Primarch. The second time that it took place, anyways, the Lion saved him from Angron. So, at which point, anyways, I don't think he remembers that he met up with the Lion again because I think Angron beat the crap out of him into unconsciousness before the Lion showed up. Azrael saw him though.
Yeah.
So I think, anyways, the only time that the Lion would want to take over is when he's ready to take over. He's not ready at this point. He's made that fairly apparent, right? He's still looking for the Fallen and those guys. So, but when he does, because he's a Primarch. Primarchs are made to be led. They were made to lead. So he will eventually, anyways, I think, try to take over the Imperium Nihilist. Now, the question is, here's the question. Where Dante comes in. I think Dante wouldn't care, and he'd be like, by all means, take over if the Lion is going to continue on moving on with the Imperium and Rabute Gilliman's concept of the Empire. Right?
Right.
In which case, it's like, okay, this is another commander that is better than me, kind of thing, which is saying something, but he can take over. It's really the question of all of a sudden, it's like, the Lion shows up and he's like, I'm taking over the Imperium Nihilist, and we're going to do things my way. Well, is that by any chance the same way that Gilliman's doing things? No, not at all. Then, anyways, I think you're going to have probably more of an issue with Dante. And at that point, anyways, what do you think Dante does?
I think at first try to convince the lion to maybe consider things, or at least
Talk to Gilman.
maybe even like somehow get in a position where he can give advice that at least somewhat nudge him, off into the direction.
Okay.
But
yeah, I think Dante's smart enough anyways, unless he was really pushed back into a corner, that he'd ever try to fight the lion. And going into that anyways, I think he'd know he'd lose. It would be a bad day for Dante. Or maybe it wouldn't. He'd be like, finally, my time has come. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting because I do think anyways, there will come a point where the only way that it won't come out ahead with Dante and the lion is if the lion ends up talking with Gilman first.
Or if another Primarch pops up randomly.
Or another Primarch pops up. Like Alferez.
On that finds out the cipher, the person he's been trying to hunt down as the last call is
no. On that horrible note, we're out of time for today. Join us next week as we start a new chapter in what we're doing, and one that Yuksen has been wanting to do for probably the last year and a half, and that would be the Space Wizards, also known as the Grey Knights.
Oh, we're actually doing them this next month?
Yeah, we're finally to the Grey Knights.
Wow,
we kept pushing them back.
Fantastic. But for those of you who enjoyed our little show, could you please be so kind as to push that subscribe, like, or follow button? And if you wish to help us expand our work on the 40K lore, by all means, support us by joining our membership program on our YouTube channel, Tales of Ashuraka. Oh, and don't forget to purchase the Yoda dice, sold wherever ebooks are sold.
Yes, but most importantly, have a great day.
And until next time, this is Zeckthar
And Yuksen.
signing off.